Brent crude prices, not even, shipping is like going to slow down the oil production outputs. The benchmarks we're now seeing $60 per barrel. So what does this all mean? Well, first of all, it means government is not going to be able to get all the revenue that they targeted for 2025, and that could impact capital projects across the country. It could definitely impact government expenditure, even government's ability to, send money to the poor, which is part of the plans for 2025. And so it's a big problem because then Nigeria's budget deficit would also widen. Budget deficit is estimated about 13.3 trillion for the 2025 budget, and that is based on $75 per barrel. So budget deficit essentially is the government's budget expenditure being higher than the government's revenue expectations. And so that means you're running deficit. It's almost like you're spending more than what you earn, right? So if you're spending more than what you earn, it means you have a deficit, and that deficit has to be financed either from debt or maybe somebody that's just giving you or dashing you money. In Nigeria's case, it used to be both of it. So we do have debt, and we also have, foreign aid. But these days with Donald Trump, foreign aid is really not that reliable anymore. So it means that we'll have to rely on debt. So are we going to likely borrow more? That I don't know. That's what it looks like. Well, I was at a session where this question was put to the Minister of Finance, and he did say that the government is looking at various other scenarios that they can use to address this issue, because they also know that it's a huge challenge, and they were asked, like, how are you going to solve this problem? That's the big problem, because already we are seeing a likely widening of our fiscal deficit. And then the bigger elephants in the room, FX. Yeah, so when crude oil prices fall, the exchange rate tends to be under pressure. This is backed by data. So this is not me just spewing out stuff. This is backed by data. Whenever crude oil prices fall, the exchange rate tends to weaken. So the exchange rate is correlated to crude oil prices. So when crude oil prices go up, the Nigerian economy tends to do very well as well. So now that we're seeing crude oil prices go down, we're worried that that's going to affect the Naira. And no surprises, we've seen the exchange rate go from about 1.5 to about 1.6. And the CBN is also trying to, defend it. According to the CBN, most of what they are doing now, that is the dollar they're supplying in the market, was what they bought in January when things were good. But now that things are looking a little shaky, they are selling that back into the market to provide some kind of liquidity so that we can have a stable exchange rate. The question then is, how long are they going to keep doing this? Is it going to last? And that's why I'm really worried, because we do need these crude oil prices to go up. Can't afford it to be below $65. We can even manage, but $60, that means we're already $15 off the target for 2025. So that's why some of us are kind of worried. On the flip side though, lower crude oil prices also means, well, lower fuel payments, because then fuel prices should also go down. Because fuel prices is also tied to crude oil, price. And we all know that most of the fuel now are refined locally. So that exchange rate pressure that we tend to always have in the past really isn't there anymore. Even though crude oil prices or dollars or exchange rate also affects local refiners as well, because some of the equipments they use are foreign and not locally made, and some of their overheads as well are foreign as well and not local expenses. But nevertheless, the impact can't be the same as it was a few years ago. And so on the flip side, to those of us in the streets, might just be a good thing that oil prices going down, because fuel prices will go down, and that could also perhaps maybe impact on inflation numbers. So the problem really is, it's the Naira still going to be correlated to crude oil prices as it's always been in the past. Past historically tells us yes, but maybe things might have changed now, because back then we always had a different kind of exchange rate regime. Now we seem to have a free and floating exchange rate. Well, not fully floated, but unified exchange rate that is semi-floating. And so it's a market-driven exchange rate. And so for that reason, maybe things might just be different this time. But that's something that we all got to watch. Will the exchange rate stay on at least at that 1.6 level and not go below? Or will things get worse? All right, that is my morning brief for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that I've been able to break this down, the relationship between crude oil prices and the Naira. Until we do this again, do have a profitable day ahead. Bye. All right, good morning, everyone. Wherever it is you're listening from, this is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. Of course, I am Ugo Dre, and we do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 on this channel. Of course, you can catch this same episode on our YouTube channel at Nairametrics TV on YouTube. You get to watch me in studio, or you could also watch other interesting Nairametric podcasts. We've got a number of them. We've got Drinks and Mics. That's the flagship podcast where we discuss the economy in general, macros, micros, businesses, personal finance, all sorts of stuff relating to business and finance in a very relaxed manner. Yeah, that's why it's called Drinks and Mics. Because that's like the familiar thing you see on when we're talking. Of course, we also have Paid in Full, where we discuss with content creators, entrepreneurs, people doing amazing things and trying to figure out how these guys make their money, how do they get paid fully, trying to demystify some of the business models that are not like your regular like the regular business models of perhaps the 90s or the 2000s or the earlier period. It's like, because business has basically changed now, so technology has changed everything. So you have new wave of entrepreneurs creating new business models. So on Paid in Full, we try to do that. And that's not the only show we have. We also have Follow the Money, this same one on podcast. And I have the Money Brief, where I break down complex financial topics as well. And what else do we have? We also have The Novice, which is just for people who don't understand finance at all. So many podcasts on Nairametrics TV that you can go and watch as well. Yeah, so today's show is going to be slightly different. I'm going to be taking it from, it's going to be like a show of two halves. Yep, show of two halves, yeah. So the first half, we're going to talk about the Nairametrics Capital Markets Awards happening on Friday. In case you haven't heard, we are having a flagship award on Friday, the 23rd of May, and it's going to be an amazing, event. We've got a lot queued in. It's not going to be like your regular awards show. When I'm doing things, I do really well. Yeah, so it's going to be real fun. A lot of blue carpet stuff. Like red carpet or blue carpet. Since Nairametrics, a lot of blue carpet stuff. A lot of fun, a lot of music. It's purely a celebration of companies that have helped us make money last year. That's what it's about. So it's a Capital Market Choice Award. So we're awarding companies that have essentially created value for shareholders, and then people that have also impacted the capital markets in a positive way. I mean, we get a lot of awards these days, and a lot of those awards don't really speak to the capital market, like, people that help you make money. I mean, there are awards that deal with businesses, that deal with technology, that deal with entertainment and all sorts. But this is an award for the businesses that help us make money. So several categories I'm going to run through, and I'm going to talk about some of the nominees for these categories. So we do have quite a number of them. They're like 23, 4 or so categories. I'm going to just run through some of it. Fund Manager of the Year. I kind of like this category because here we're looking at organizations that essentially take most of your money, right? So they basically pull money from investors like you and I, and then they invest that money in various asset classes and generate returns, which they all share to us. So it's a very interesting piece of work because it requires a lot of skill to be able to take money from you and invest that money very well and deliver very decent returns. So it's important that you reward these companies as well, and so there are quite a number of them out there. By the way, these awards is purely data driven, so we don't do pay all our stuff. So it's not like somebody's going to pay for an award. This is purely data driven. It's based on the numbers that people can also verify easily. And so who are nominees for Fund Manager of the Year? There are 3 of them in no particular order. So we've got FBN Quest Asset Management. I think they've changed now. I don't know if that's still called FBN Quest, but FBN Quest Asset Management Limited. They are one of the nominees. They have a fund listed that did pretty well as well. And then we also have ARM Investment Managers Limited. They are one of the nominees. They also have a fund that did quite well. And then we have Chapel Hill Denham Management Limited. They also have a fund that did very well as well. So those are the 3 nominees for Fund Manager of the Year. Which one do you think is going to win? Like, are these funds any of the funds that you're invested in? I'm interested to get your feedback. Let's know which one you think did well. We also have an award for multinationals, like banks that or organizations that are like have presence across Africa. I mean, like, we're now in a world where the globalized world where companies tend to just go beyond their shores so that they can make more money. Nigeria needs that more now, especially as we're looking for export revenues, right? So you have to have branches and subsidiaries outside of Nigeria, and that way you can make a lot more money. And so there were quite a number of them that we were tracking, and these companies are also listed on the exchange. And so there are three that made our list, as the nominees, and these three were in no particular order again. Access Holdings. Access is in several countries. I mean, what they've been doing across Africa, and so they were one of those multinational companies that we're looking at from a Nigerian perspective. UBA as well. They made some interesting announcements last year. I think they're also in New York. They're in Dubai. So that's one of those companies that we looked at. And of course, Dangote Cement, probably one of the most popular Nigerian franchises out there. So we're rewarding that too, because these guys made money for Nigerians from outside Nigeria as well, and not just about making money as well, but also making a presence outside Nigeria. There is also an award for organizations that are not really banks, but they are making their mark too, right? Because they are non-financial institutions, but they invest in businesses across Nigeria because of their expertise. And so, for example, we've got two of them here. We've got VFD, right? Three of them actually. VFD, we've got Nigerian Exchange Limited, and we also have United Capital. So these three companies invest. They're not banks, but we see them as non-financial institutions because they also have investments in other companies as well that are vertically integrated to some of the things that they do, and sometimes not vertically integrated. So how they basically make money is they invest in these companies and then get returns from these companies and then share that as dividend to their shareholders. So they do create wealth for some organizations. And of course, we also have the market where investments happen, right? So there are different markets where investment happens. So you've got the stock exchange itself, you've got the commodities exchange, there are different markets where things happen, where you can actually go and buy investments legitimately. Okay, so we've got three markets that we think are dominant, and they've been dominant for years, and they continue to be dominant. So we're interested to see who wins this one, because this is quite a formidable trio. So we've got the Nigerian Exchange Limited again, yeah, and then we've got FMDQ, where you mostly trade bonds and fixed income securities, and then we've got Afex Commodity Exchange, and that's where you trade commodities. So those are the three exchanges that we've nominated as the winners. So I wonder who's going to win this one. Pretty interested. Of course, if you're investing, how do you usually invest? I mean, you have a stockbroker, right? That you probably write a long letter to and tell them the things you want to invest in. Nah, scratch that. It can be. You must be investing through an app. If you don't have an app now, I'm sure that's where you used to invest, because we all use apps to kind of invest. So apps have basically dominated how things are done around the world now. If you can use apps to get a taxi, or you can use app to listen to me on radio, then you might as well use app to do what? To invest. So there are a number of apps out there that are making investment very easy for a lot of Nigerians, particularly retail investors, and we thought to reward them as well and recognize them. And so we've got three nominees in this category.